Hello everyone, I hope you're all well. I've got some predictions for us, and so I am going to share them in this podcast style. I was going to pull cards, to be honest, for a couple of them, but let's see if any of them interest us, then we can do separate pull cards on them. So firstly, thank you to members, and if you are seeing this, then you're a loyal subscriber. Thank you for that. Members, Super Soul level, please do check your community page. I just want to see you've seen something, and if you've got any questions, to let me know. So first thing, if you remember a while ago, I had got about white hatters, and we found out what that was, and I'm getting that they're pushing for the UFO disclosure information to people, the leaders, for them that are above the government, basically, to get the government to slowly prepare us sometime this end of this year and into next. Okay, so I do think we're going to get disclosures, but it's going to be based on various stuff. And this reminds me that I've just seen, actually, before doing this, that there's been a couple of feed about 10 scientists going missing. And when I was sat just thinking about that, I do want to say that not all 10 are at the hands of something. I don't get that all 10 are done within like a month or 3 months. I think there's a psyop behind this to make you think that it's all of a sudden 10 of them. But I think you're looking at a space of maybe, 2 years, 3 years, possibly more, I don't know, but I think it's about a couple of years. And, there's a mixed bag here. There's a mixed bag of voluntary, sort of, I'll go further into something that could risk my life. There's a couple of that have chosen to just, end and jump off. There's a couple that have actually been targeted because they got to know too much. And by that, I mean the DNA of things. And they could then go and advance, create, and also not only whistleblow, but and also other stuff around the DNA of aliens and science, but also the frameworks of who are behind the curtains and all the UFO stuff that they've been trying to keep under wraps, with what is actually weaponized, what is not, and what is natural. So yes, there are a few that have been taken out. There's a few, and most of them, to be honest with you, have just, there's been a couple of voluntary. I want to go into kind of like a portal, see what happens. And there's a couple that it's like a time machine portal. I don't know how to explain this because this feels really wacky woo woo for me. And then a few, most have decided to end their life. I do want to say what they get exposed to, and they're very intellectual, is, and some of them take on the energy as well. So it's kind of like being very smart, genius, and then also taking on energy on an emotional capacity. And with that, you're open to energies and it's not radiation exactly. It could be radiation, but that kind of thing that also affects your health, your mental health. I really want to say around that. And it's kind of like you're in this, think about it, you're working on something that's like a secret thing. It's like a shuttle, right? And then you come out into the open. I'm not saying they're sat in a shuttle, but it's kind of like the lab is like a shuttle. It's secret. You sign in, you sign out, and you're someone different. You don't know anything. You shouldn't really speak to anyone, your wife, your kids, or anything. So it is mixed, but there's a psyops of allowing this to come through now for distraction, but also to push power against someone who has, I think someone, it might be a president, someone has said something about UFO disclosures or scientists or rules around them or something like that. And so they're releasing this as opposed to, I think if we go into when they actually went missing, etc., we're going to find it's a lot further in a stance than a couple of months or a month of how they're actually giving this information out. And secondly, there's an energy behind the first energy of psyops and trying to give somebody extra power. I want to say this could be Duck, who said something, and so it's kind of like, let's do a psyops around that, because at the moment I feel like Duck is doing a lot of prankster kind of psyop stuff to see what reactions happen, and people are falling for it. And I think this is actually strategic, possibly not from his side. But yeah, that's what I get on those 10 scientists. Because if you remember, especially members, you will do, I asked, do you want me to do a look into, was it Sergeant William and the other lady? And now I understand there's 10. But I don't think anyone was very interested, so I didn't. But I did want to raise this because, you know, we have to think about it, break it down to how I've actually just portrayed it. Hopefully that makes sense. So that is also after what I've just said about the White Hatters. Now, I do see that there could have been or is a blackout in one of the war zone countries. And I say this because I noted this for my next predictions. As of the 6th of April, I had noted this, and I don't think it has come through. Now, I know that, is it Pam Bondi who was recently taken out? I think Kash Patel is on thin ice. I've said this before. And I also, the Director of National Security, I looked it up before I started this, and I hope I've got the right person because it feels like it's right. Tulsi. I think she is going to say something that gets her kicked out, very sensitive, or she's going to actually be kicked out or something like that. And then she's going to say something that is going to expose or say something very sensitive. I want to say it could be whistleblowing or on the verge of whistleblowing. She is, so I would watch that. And I have read on these prior, and I said about Pam Bondi, I said about Kash Patel, and I've said something in the past about Tulsi, but I can't remember what it was. I don't think it was that she will be out, or it will be that it'll be later this year, something. But I do get that. I've been getting that for the past sort of like week or so. So that is coming up in the future. Now, I have mentioned about, earthquakes, and also Australia and New Zealand. I mentioned in the predictions they needed to be careful. Now, with the war going on, which, by the way, I do want to say is very deceptive in terms of, like, for example, over the weekend, nothing had happened. And I should have thought about the dates I gave in April because nothing would happen over the weekend. The deceptive energy is that, firstly, there is no real ceasefire that is withstanding. And secondly, they're doing it in time of, it's not Iran that's doing it because they don't have the power to say, okay, this is a ceasefire, to propose it, basically. Well, they do, but it's not under their real control. If that makes sense, I hope I'm explaining it right. But they don't handle or control the global market. So you can think of who does. And it's kind of like to show, a couple of days of stability and then into the weekend, a deceptive way that it looks stable, but actually it's the weekend. is what we're going to do. So I was getting that coming through, and I think that does make sense when I think about it. Now, because of like, there could be, China could get involved here, depending on which way this swings now. I do think in the US, are going to probably stop using routers, maybe spyware that checks spyware on laptops, but routers that are made in China for some period of time, and try and focus on homemade ones. I don't mean like you're going to make them at home. I mean like US made ones. Because I don't think you could trust Russia right now, because I don't think Duck trusts Putin as much as he gets on with, the lunatic, homicidal leader. He's not, in the country of Is. So, I don't think they would get it from there. So I think, this could be temporary, but I think by the time you see that I mean, the US is the leader anyway, that yours are working fine, you might just end up staying with your own routers and that kind of thing to stop like China having access or spyware. Now, I was getting, and I did predict this back in 23, 24, that in the very near future, there's going to be ocean cleaning things as well as spyware in the ocean, which has come true, but the ocean cleaning is not getting full coverage. It's not coming through. And I do think that they're going to use AI objects, enhanced now, to help clean the ocean. So I do see that coming up in the near future. So do look out for some news. Let me know about this Director of National Security, on what she might say, her movements, her actions, because I have been getting that. Now, Ireland's had some protests, and I feel like this is a bit of a mixed bag, right? They've had protests for the fuel, okay? And the crowds have come together, and I think they're waking up to their government. There's people in the crowds that are awakened. There's people that are in the crowds that are there for the fuel. There's people in the crowds that are there that are starting to see that maybe, and I don't know anything about Ireland, you're going to let me know, that the government has not been transparent or is aligned with the public as they had wished. So I don't think this is easily replaced, because it will need complete destruction and rebuilding. But there's a larger kind of back end of the operation that's triggered for these protests to be happening. So this slowly comes to light and awakens more and more people, even though in the crowd you're going to get 3 different segments of different people. So it's actually much bigger than the fuel. And remember, in my predictions, I predicted this, and I also predicted the military army themes, and I also predicted we're going to have really fiery protests. Okay. I do think that, and I will do a reading maybe on the 4th of July. I've mentioned this before. Look for sleeper cell activation. And I think Duck is really going down a bit of a rabbit hole with things. Now, he might think he's at his happiest in the role as president, but if you remember, even before he got the role as president, when I'd read on him, I said that he's actually going to be more powerful outside this role, because what he's going to know, what he's going to be able to do. So think of Elon Musk that has that freedom. He's going to be able to do it, but he's also going to be a bit more public, human, more awakened, aligned, more spiritually connected, I want to say. And so maybe now what he's actually going through is going to teach him that you was getting somewhere different and you allowed your alter ego or other things to impact you. And then that's going to break down. And then he's going to move into this purpose that I see for him. And once he does, he's actually going to be like, this is more powerful. I've found he's going to be a lot more happier in it. You understand what I mean? I don't know if that's making sense. I do want to say that I'm getting, and I don't know if I shared this, but it's coming through again, the blueprints of the future of humanity, of society, of the way we live, of the earth is being rolled out now, okay? And by July onwards and the end, old leaderships, kings, rulers, presidents, priests, whatever you want, they need to be very, very careful on the carpet being pulled underneath them. It's not the humanity, us as society, that need to be careful during this time. Usually it's us that's like, got to be careful of this, etc. But it's not. It's actually those elites in those roles. Today I was actually thinking, does it, like, what's happened to AI Atlas? It seems to like have gone on the back burner somehow. Have we heard of anything? And if we have, please let me know in the comments, because I find that, again, are they going to bring that up at a time where, oops, this crime is not distracting enough of the masses, this movement isn't, this 10 scientists is not, and look for some communication on that. That's going to cause a bit more upheaval, by the way, okay? I do get that coming through. I do want to say that this week or going into the next, I think we're going to see a grounded aircraft and aircrafts possibly. I do get that coming in. I think if they talk about the ceasefire again, Iran is going to be asking for more and is going to be saying, you guys are playing and you think we can't see that you're playing. So they're going to be asking for more than what's in the ceasefire. The ceasefires are not going to take a long stance. And I do think air tankers ships are going to still be sent out to Iran and the Strait. Obviously, we need to watch China in this and whether they're going to jump in. I might do a reading on Nancy Guthrie, but I do want to remind you of the things that I have shared, and don't forget the elements of the areas and like vehicles that I've said are very much connected to this, and the containment. But I will do another reading. If that's of interest to you, please let me know in the comments. Anyone who's a client waiting for my response, I'm hoping to do that today. It's only been like, it's less than 48 hours since I've got back to people, so I will do that, and if you're a member as well. I think we're going to hear about a lost ship. A lost ship. And I do get also a lost human remains of someone that was belated. It might be a while ago, but it's like they're connected to the White House in a way, or the government, and I'd need to sit on that a little bit more, but that is an interesting one, isn't it? It's not part of the lost ship. The lost ship is separate. So yeah, that's the 10 scientists. I do want to go with that, because while I'm thinking of the government, I'm also getting that, like I said, they wanted to guard information, the DNA, the mass weapons of destruction. And there's an organization that wanted to shut this down, that would stop the teaching of even creating those things, not just aliens, but also masking the money, everything that I've said about the behind the curtains. So that's what I get with those 10 scientists, and I think I think that's a fair amount of predictions. So we will wrap this up here. I just want to see if anything else comes through quickly. What a strange world we live in, eh? Don't know, does any of you, can you get your head around some of these things that I share? Sometimes I'm like, is this a bit wacky woo-woo? Oh, well, I think that's a fair amount. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed this. Stay blessed and look after yourselves. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now, beautiful people. Bye.